Hey everyone, Final here. Today, I'll be showing you my quick and easy paint scheme for a Chaplain in Terminator Armour. It's not 100% necessary for this model, but I'll be building him up in sub-assemblies. I have here the main body with the legs on. I left off the belt buckle thing because it's easier to paint that separately. Then I had the left arm with the Crozius Arcanum, the right arm with the Storm Bolter. I'm also showing you how I paint up the shield, just in case you wanted to use the alternate assembly. And finally, the helmet. Anyway, let's get started. After priming in Chaos Black, I give the armor a nice base coat using Corvus Black. It's going on pretty thin because I don't want to gunk up the details. I'll do a couple more coats after this. And here's the armor, with a solid coat of Corvus Black. And then I'll go and wash the armor with a coat of Nuln Oil. I'm aiming to have it pool in the recesses to really darken them up. Once I'm done washing the model, I'll let it dry for about half an hour or so. And then I'll do a heavy dry brush using Corvus Black. That'll help fix up the armor and get rid of any tide marks left behind by the Nuln Oil. After the heavy dry brush, I'll do a lighter dry brush with Eshin Gray, just on the edges. This will give the edges some definition and help brighten up the whole model. And there's the black armor done. I'm painting mine up as an ultramarine, so I'll be painting up the knee pad with Macragge Blue. I'll be doing the same thing with the right shoulder pauldron. After the Macragge Blue, I'll wash it with Nuln Oil. And then fix up the base coat with a heavy dry brush of Macragge Blue. And then finally a light dry brush on the edges with Calgar Blue. So far so good. Next up, the gold trim. First, I'll be painting Rhinox hide on all of the gold bits. That includes the trim, the skulls, and the halo. This will make it easier to get a solid coat of gold later. After I'm done with that, I'll go in with Retributor Armour and paint up all of the gold. I'll probably only need one coat for most of it, but I'll do some touch-ups on any areas that are splotchy. Once the gold dries, I'll wash all of it with Reikland Flesh Shade. I'm not looking to drown it, I'm just aiming to coat most of it since there aren't really any recesses to shade. After giving that shade about a half hour to dry, I'll go in and do a heavy dry brush with Retributor Armour to brighten it up. I do want some of the Reikland Flesh Shade to peek through, so it won't be as heavy of a dry brush as the armor was. Here, I only dry brushed the right side of the halo just to show you what it looks like. It still has the warm flesh shade color, but it's a bit brighter and shinier. I want to be extra careful with this dry brush so I don't get it on the black armor. However, if I do, I could just glaze on some Corvus Black to fix it up. And there's the gold all finished up, just a couple of details left to go. On the purity seals, I'll start with Rakarth Flesh. And then I'll wash them with Agrax Earthshade, thinned with Lamine Medium about 1:1. For the actual seal part, I'll go in with Khorne Red, and then wash those with Nuln Oil. Good or bad, the tactical rock is also a part of the main body. I'll start off on the rock using Mechanicus Standard Grey. And then I'll wash it with Agrax Earthshade, followed by a Dawnstone dry brush. For the bit of rebar sticking out, I'll paint it up with Leadbelcher. I'll make it a little bit rusty using some Typhus Corrosion. And then a very light dry brush using Ryza Rust. I also painted up the rivets with Leadbelcher, just to make it pop a little bit. But really, that's it for the main body. Now for the left arm and the Crozius Arcanum. First, I'll start off with Khorne Red for the handle, followed by a Nuln Oil wash, and then a light dry brush with Wazdaka Red. It's okay if it gets on the mace part, just try and keep it off of the armor. Now before the gold, I'll first apply Rhinox hide, followed by a nice coat of Retributor Armour, I'll then wash the gold with Reikland Flesh Shade, and then a heavy dry brush with Retributor Armour, to bring back the shine on the gold. I'll also do a light dry brush with Liberator Gold. That'll really make the gold pop. And that's it for the Crozius Arcanum. Nice and simple. While I'm here, I'll also work on the Crux Terminatus. I'll start off painting the whole thing with Mechanicus Standard Grey, followed by a wash with Agrax Earthshade. After the Agrax Earthshade dries, I'll highlight the raised edges with Dawnstone. The Dawnstone will give it some contrast. I could try and dry brush it, but most of it will end up on the skull instead. I'll wrap it up with a light dry brush using Administratum Grey, aiming just for the skull. I want the dry brush to leave it patchy, so it kinda looks like stone. And that's it for the Crux Terminatus. I'll wrap this arm up by painting Lead Belcher on the cable, followed by more Nuln Oil, and then a light dry brush with Lead Belcher to brighten everything back up. While I have the Lead Belcher out, I'm also going to paint up the rivets. And that's it, the left arm, the Crux Terminatus, and the Crozius Arcanum, all done. Now for the right arm, I already painted up the pauldron earlier when I was painting up the main body. The cable, rivets, and little skull I painted up while doing the other arm. This time, I'm only focusing on the Stormbolter. I'll start off by painting the metal parts with Lead Belcher. I'm being extra careful not to hit the arm, but again, I can apply a glaze of Corvus Black to clean it up if I have to. After the Lead Belcher, I'll apply Corn Red to the casing. This time, I'm being careful not to hit the arm or the Lead Belcher. After I'm done with the casing, I'll wash the whole Stormbolter with Nuln Oil. After giving the Nuln Oil about half an hour to dry, I'm going to dry brush the casing with Wazdaka Red. Then, I'll dry brush the metal parts with Lead Belcher. I'm being very specific about painting in this order. If any of the red dry brush gets on the metal, the Lead Belcher dry brush will fix it up. While I have some Lead Belcher on my palette, there's a couple of bolt heads to paint up. For the winged skull, I'm just going straight to Retributor Armour. Then Reichland Flesh Shade. And then I'll highlight the raised edges with Retributor Armour. Now to wrap up the Stormbolter, I'll paint the ammunition with Rune Lord Brass. If you want something brighter, you can also use Brass Scorpion. After letting the Rune Lord Brass dry, I'll wash it all with Agrax Earthshade. I'm doing this a little bit out of order, but I ended up painting the parchment thing with Rakarth Flesh and Agrax Earthshade, thinned 1-to-1 with Lamian Medium. And here's the final result, the right arm with a Stormbolter. Now alternatively, you can get a Relic Shield instead of a Stormbolter for your right arm. If you already decided on the Stormbolter, feel free to skip this step. I'm starting off on the shield with Corn Red in the middle. And then I'll wash the red with Nuln Oil, making sure it pools in the recesses. Finally, I'm going to do a heavy dry brush with Wazdaka Red. I'll be doing a combination of stippling and dry brushing for this. I do want the red to be a little bit patchy, so it kind of looks like a burgundy colored leather. You can go as heavy or light as you want on the dry brushing. Before doing the gold, again, I'll start with Rhinox Hide. Make sure you get all of the gold. After that, I'll carefully paint on some Retributor Armour. It actually took me 2 or even 3 coats in a couple of spots here. I'll then wash the gold with Reichland Flesh Shade. I'm having it pool in this halo area, and I'm just going to lightly coat it for the trim. Then I'll dry brush the gold with Retributor Armour. I'm leaving it patchy on the trim so it looks like worn down gold. Since I already have Retributor Armour on my palette, I'll paint up these studs or whatever they are with that gold. And then I'll wrap up the gold with a very light dry brush on the edges with Liberator Gold. For the skeleton, I'll start off with a base of Xandri Dust. I'll probably need 2 or 3 layers of it since I'm going over Chaos Black. After the Xandri Dust, I'll wash all of it with Agrax Earthshade. And after the wash dries, I'll dry brush the bones with Ushapti Bone. So far so good. Now for the parchment and the purity seals, I'll start with Rakarth Flesh, and then wash them with a mixture of Agrax Earthshade and Lamian Medium, about 1-to-1. For the seal, I'll use Corn Red and Nuln Oil. Finally, I'll take some Lead Belcher and finish up all the metal details. And here's the result, a Relic Shield for our Chaplain in Terminator Armour. Onto the helmet. It was already primed with Grey Sear spray, but I'm also going to base coat some Grey Sear onto the skull part of it, just to make sure it's a uniform color. Next, I'll wash the face with Nuln Oil. I want to make sure that it doesn't pool in any of the flat areas, since Grey Sear is hard to fix. Once the Nuln Oil dries, I'll do a very light dry brush with Grey Sear. I want to brighten up the raised edges, but I'm trying not to get too much on the flat areas since it'll look chalky. For the eye lenses, I'll first carefully put on a coat of White Scar, and then a coat of Blood Angel's Red contrast paint. If I make a mistake anywhere, I'll do a very light glaze with Grey Sear. Now for the helmet portion, I'll base coat it with Corvus Black. Then I'll wash it with Nuln Oil, and then I'll do a careful dry brush with Eshin Grey, just for the edges. Once again, to wrap up the helmet, I'll paint the metallic bits with Leadbelcher. And there's the helmet, looking suitably angry. With all of the sub-assemblies done, I'll do a little bit of assembly and basing, and here's the final result. One Chaplain in Terminator Armour, painted as part of the Ultramarines chapter. This is a really fun model to paint, and hopefully this video helped you out with yours. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.